The champagne glass slipped from my fingers before I even realized I'd let it go. It hit the marble floor with a sound like a gunshot, shattering into 1,000 crystalline pieces that skittered across the ballroom floor. The string quartet faltered. Conversations died mid-syllable. Every single eye in the Ashford Estates grand ballroom turned to me. I stared at the mess, but I wasn't seeing it. I was seeing Julian's hand on Clara's waist, his thumb tracing lazy circles against the silk of her dress. I was seeing the way she tilted her head back and laughed at something he'd whispered, her fingers playing with his loosened bow tie. I was seeing the same scene I'd lived through once before. Only this time the nausea hit me like a physical blow. Because I remembered the year that followed this night. The way Julian's affection curdled into contempt the moment the ring was on my finger. The way Clara became a permanent fixture in our lives. A third wheel who somehow always ended up in the passenger seat of his car, in the spare room of our apartment, in the whispered phone calls he thought I couldn't hear. The way his family smiled at me like I was a particularly well-trained dog while they bled my inheritance dry, one emergency loan at a time. I remembered the screaming match last Christmas, when I'd found the receipt for a diamond bracelet that wasn't wrapped for me. I remembered the way Julian had backhanded me across the face when I'd asked about it, then cried and apologized and promised it would never happen again. I remembered the bruises I'd hidden with concealer and the lies I'd told my mother on the phone. But most of all, I remembered the will that I remembered sneaking into Arthur Ashford's study 6 months from now, looking for the property deeds I needed to sign. I remembered finding the original document tucked inside a leather portfolio, the ink still sharp and damning. Julian's name, crossed out with such force the pen had torn through the paper. Beside it, in Arthur's cold, precise hand, one word, disinherited. I remembered the relief that had flooded through me, followed immediately by terror. Because if Julian found out, he'd have nothing left to lose. And a man with nothing to lose is a man who will drag everyone down with him. You look pale, darling. Julian's voice cut through my spiral, warm and slurred with whiskey. He'd left Clara's side at last, weaving his way toward me with that lazy, entitled grin I used to find charming. Drink some champagne. Loosen up. It's supposed to be a celebration, not a wake. I watched him approach and this time I saw him clearly. The red-rimmed eyes from too much cocaine in the bathroom. The trembling fingers that reached for my waist, grabbing a little too hard. The way his smile didn't quite reach his eyes, because they were already scanning the room for his next drink, his next fix, his next distraction. Where's Clara? I asked. My voice sounded strange to my own ears. Calm. Distant. He blinked, caught off guard. What? Oh, she's mingling. You know how she is. He waved a dismissive hand. Listen, I need to talk to you about something. About the prenup. His eyes flickered. How did you? Your father mentioned it. He lied smoothly. At dinner last week. When you were too drunk to remember. Something dark passed across Julian's face. Right. Well, just a formality. You know that. Is it? What's that supposed to mean? I looked over his shoulder and saw Arthur Ashford watching us from across the room, his champagne glass frozen halfway to his lips. The expression on his face wasn't concern. It was calculation. He was assessing me, measuring my compliance, already planning how to spin this if I made a scene. Just like he'd done last time, just like he'd done when I finally left Julian. And Arthur had released a carefully worded statement to the press about how I'd abandoned his son during a difficult time. How I'd been a gold digger all along. How the Ashford family had been nothing but generous, and I'd repaid them with betrayal. I remembered the headlines. The online comments. The way my mother had stopped answering my calls because she was too ashamed to be associated with me. Julian. I said carefully. Do you love me? He laughed. It was a sharp, barking sound that turned a few heads. What kind of question is that? Of course I love you. That's why we're getting married. Do you want to marry me? His grip on my waist tightened. I already said yes, didn't I? Are you having cold feet? Because we can talk about this later, but right now everyone's watching and I really need you to answer the question. The playfulness vanished from his face. What's going on with you? You're acting weird. Is this because of Clara? I told you, she's just a friend. We grew up together. You know that. I remembered the texts I'd found on his phone, the hotel reservations. The photos he thought he'd deleted. Clara's naked body tangled in sheets I'd bought for our apartment, I know exactly what she is, I said quietly. And I know exactly what you are. Don't do this. His voice dropped to a warning whisper. Not here. Not tonight. You're embarrassing me. You're embarrassing yourself. The slap came so fast I didn't see it coming. His palm connected with my cheek with a sound that echoed through the suddenly silent ballroom. My head snapped to the side. The pain bloomed hot and immediate, and I tasted blood where my teeth had cut the inside of my lip. Someone gasped. A woman's voice. My mother, probably. Julian's face went white. I didn't mean you made me. Get your hands off me. I said it quietly, but with enough ice in my voice that he actually stepped back. His hands dropped to his sides. He looked around the room at the watching faces, at his father's thunderous expression, at Clara's horrified mask. He looked like a cornered animal. She's hysterical, Arthur Ashford announced, striding across the ballroom. He didn't hurry. He never hurried. She's been under a lot of pressure with the wedding planning. Julian, take her to the study. Let her compose herself. The study? I laughed, and even I could hear the hysteria in it. So you can explain the prenup to me again, so you can remind me what happens to people who don't follow Ashford family protocol. Clara, take her, Arthur said, and his voice was final. Now. But when Clara reached for me, I moved. I sidestepped her manicured hands and walked toward the grand staircase. Not running. Never running. Just walking with the measured steps of someone who's finally stopped pretending to. Where are you going? Julian shouted after me. Get back here. I paused at the bottom of the stairs and turned to look at him. He was on his knees now, trying to clean the champagne off his tuxedo, and Clara was crouched beside him, cooing soothing nonsense. Arthur was already on his phone. I knew exactly who he was calling. The fixer. The one who made problems disappeared. You don't have a penny to your name, I said, and my voice carried across the silent ballroom. You don't have a future, Julian. You have nothing but your father's money, and even that's not going to last. You know why? Shut up, he snarled. Because you've already been written out. It's done. The ink's dry. I looked at Arthur, who had gone very still. You've been cut off. And he never had any intention of telling you. Did he? He was going to let you marry me first. Let me take the fall when it all came crashing down. Arthur's face was a mask of cold fury. That's enough. You're clearly unwell. Am I? I pulled my phone from my clutch. I'd recorded the whole conversation. I'd started recording the moment Julian slapped me. Because I have a feeling everyone here would love to see what happens when I post this. When I send it to every news outlet in the city. When I show the world exactly what the Ashford family is really made of. Don't, Julian whispered. He'd gotten to his feet, his face pale and sweating. Please. Whatever you want. Just don't. What I want is for you to let me walk out that door. Ofini. Go. Just go. He was shaking now, and Clara had to hold him steady. But you'll be sorry. You'll come crawling back. You'll see. I smiled at him. It wasn't a nice smile. The first time I walked out on you, I almost came back. I didn't know better. But now I know exactly who you are. And I know the monster you'll become. So let me be very clear about this. I stepped closer to him. Close enough that only he and Clara could hear. You hit me. In front of 300 people. I have witnesses. I have proof. And if you ever come near me again, I'll destroy you. Not your father. Not your family. You. His face crumpled. He looked like a child who just realized the world wasn't fair. I didn't wait for a response. I turned and walked up the stairs, through the private hall, and out the servants' entrance into the cold night air. My phone buzzed in my hand before I'd even made it to the gate. That unknown number. The message was a single screenshot. A legal document. The Ashford family will. Julian's name crossed out in black ink. And below it, a text message. You just saved yourself from a pauper. Or maybe you just made him the richest man alive. Depends on whose side you play. Check your account. I opened my banking app with trembling fingers. My personal account, the one Julian had access to, was empty. Cleaned out. But there was a new account. One I didn't recognize. With a balance that made me stop breathing. $2,147,000. Another message appeared. He embezzled it from the family trust. His father knows. The will's just the beginning. Want to see the real files? Meet me at the Black Cat Cafe. I'll be in the corner booth. Come alone. I stared at my phone in the moonlight that I had two choices. Walk away and build a new life on a pile of stolen cash. Or walk into that cafe and start a war. Somewhere inside the house, I heard Julian screaming that I called a car and told the driver to take me to the Black Cat Cafe. That I'd made my choice that the Black Cat Cafe was exactly the kind of place Julian would have sneered at. Dim lighting, mismatched furniture, the smell of burnt espresso and something floral that might have been incense. A place where normal people existed outside the bubble of Ashford wealth. I'd never been to a place like this before. The old me would have been terrified that the new me walked straight to the corner booth and slid into the cracked vinyl seat across from a woman I'd never seen before. She was older than me, maybe mid-40s, with sharp cheekbones and graying hair pulled back in a severe bun. She wore a tailored blazer that cost more than my entire wardrobe, and a smile that didn't reach her eyes. A tablet sat on the table between us. Its screen darkened. "Miss Campbell," she said. Not a question. "I'm Margaret. I work for the firm that handles the Ashford family's offshore holdings. Or rather, I used to. I quit 3 hours ago." I opened my mouth to speak, but she cut me off with a raised hand. "I don't have time for pleasantries. The Ashfords will know I've turned by morning. When they do, I'll need to be on a plane to a country without extradition. So let me give you what I came to give you, and then we're done." She slid the tablet across the table. The screen lit up with a file directory that made my head spin. Bank statements. Account numbers. Transfer histories. Enough evidence of fraud to put Arthur Ashford in federal prison for the rest of his natural life. "This is everything," she said. "Every penny Julian skimmed from the family trust. Every lie Arthur told to cover it up. Every shell company they used to hide the money. I've been watching them for 3 years, waiting for the right moment. And then you walked out that door tonight, and I knew." "Knew what?" "That you were the weapon I'd been waiting for." She leaned back, studying me with those cold, calculating eyes. "Julian will come after you. He'll call you a liar, a gold digger, a bitter ex who's trying to ruin him. His father will back him up. They'll have lawyers, PR teams, the whole machine. You'll be alone." "I'm not alone." I gestured at the tablet. "I have this. You have evidence. That's not the same as allies. Do you know how many people have tried to take down a family like the Ashfords? They crush people. They make them disappear. Not physically, but everything else. Their reputations. Their livelihoods. Their sanity." I remembered the way my mother had stopped answering my calls after the divorce. The way my friends had slowly drifted away, too intimidated by the Ashford legal team to stay in touch. The way I'd ended up in a tiny studio apartment with nothing but my memories and a stack of unpaid bills. "I know what they do," I said quietly. "I lived it." Margaret tilted her head. "No, you lived one version of it. The version where you were a victim. This time you get to be the one holding the knife." She pulled a thick manila envelope from her briefcase and pushed it across the table. "This is the original forgery comparison. Arthur altered the will 6 months ago to disinherit Julian. But he also forged Julian's signature on a separate document, a confession of embezzlement, signed under duress. He was planning to use it if Julian ever stepped out of line. Duress. Arthur threatened to expose Julian's drug use to the press. Julian, predictably, folded. But the signature on the confession is a pretty obvious fake. I've already had a handwriting analyst confirm it. One phone call to the right reporter, and Arthur's entire narrative falls apart. I opened the envelope and pulled out the documents. Julian's scrawled signature, clearly wrong in a dozen small ways. The dates that didn't match. The missing notary stamp. It was amateur hour, the kind of sloppy work you'd expect from a man who'd spent decades believing he was untouchable. "Why are you giving me this?" I asked. "You said you quit. Why not just walk away?" Margaret's eyes flickered with something that might have been pain. "Because my daughter was engaged to Julian. 5 years ago. She called it off at the last minute just like you did. And then the Ashfords destroyed her. They said she'd been unfaithful, that she'd stolen from the family, that she was mentally unstable. She ended up in a facility, Miss Campbell. She's still there. She's been there for 4 years. I felt my stomach drop. I'm so sorry. Don't be sorry. Be vengeful. She closed the tablet and handed it to me. There's everything you need on here, including the offshore account numbers and the locations where Arthur stashed his personal fortune. He's got millions hidden away. Julian's has no idea. He thinks he's broke, but his father's been hiding the real money for years. Where is it? Cayman Islands. Switzerland. A few shell corporations in Delaware. She smiled. I've already transferred one account into your name. Call it an engagement gift. The money's yours, clean and traceable. A little something to keep you afloat while you burn them down. Margaret, I can't. You can. And you will. She stood up, smoothing down her blazer. I'm leaving the country in an hour. You won't see me again. But if you're smart, you'll use what I've given you to protect yourself first, and then to destroy them. Protect myself how? She paused, her hand on the back of the booth. Your mother works for Arthur Ashford's charity foundation. Has she ever mentioned that to you? The words hit me like a punch to the chest. What? 3 years ago, the Ashfords quietly bought your mother's failing business, then kept her on as an employee. They've been paying her salary out of the foundation's accounts. It's technically legal, but it's also a leash. If you go public, they'll cut her off. They'll make sure she loses everything. My mother, who'd always been so quick to criticize Julian, so eager to push me toward the altar. The woman who'd told me I was being dramatic when I'd confessed my fears about the marriage. The woman who'd stopped answering my calls when I finally left. She never told me. I whispered. Of course she didn't. She was embarrassed. She needed the money. And the Ashfords made sure she understood that her loyalty to them was directly tied to her survival. Margaret's expression softened just barely. I'm telling you this so you know what you're up against. They've been playing this game a lot longer than you have. They've got pieces on the board you don't even know about. Then how do I win? By being unpredictable. By not doing what they expect. She pulled a business card from her pocket and placed it on the table. This is the contact information for a journalist at the Times. She's been chasing the Ashford story for years. She's meticulous, she's relentless, and she hates Arthur with a burning passion. She's also the only person in this city who won't take his money. She turned to leave, then looked back over her shoulder. One more thing, Ms. Campbell. Check your bank account every hour for the next 48 hours. If you see any transactions you don't recognize, document them and call that journalist immediately. They'll start bleeding you dry the moment they realize you're a threat. I sat in the empty booth for a long time after she left. The cafe had closed, and the barista had to tell me twice that it was time to go. I stumbled out into the pre-dawn darkness, my head spinning with information. My phone buzzed. Julian. I stared at his name on the screen. It was 4:47 in the morning. He was still awake, probably still drunk, probably furious. I thought about ignoring it. I thought about blocking his number and never speaking to him again. But that was the old me. The woman who ran away. I answered the call. Elena. His voice was raw, ragged, like he'd been crying. Or screaming. Or both. Please. Please just come home. We can fix this. I can fix this. I made a mistake. I was drunk. I didn't mean to hurt you. You meant to hurt me. You just didn't mean to do it in front of witnesses. There was a pause. When he spoke again, the desperate edge was gone, replaced by something colder. Where are you? Somewhere safe. Somewhere you'll never find me. You think you can just walk away. You think there won't be consequences. My father is furious. He's got lawyers drawing up papers as we speak. By noon, every asset you own will be frozen. By tomorrow, your name will be mud. You'll be lucky to get a job flipping burgers. Funny you should mention that. I leaned against a lamppost, the tablet heavy in my bag. I was just looking at some documents. Interesting ones. About your father's offshore accounts. About the money you embezzled from the family trust. About the will he forged to disinherit you. Dead silence. Julian. Are you still there? Where did you get that? His voice was barely a whisper. Elena, where did you get that information? Let's just say I've made a friend. A well-connected one. She gave me everything, Julian. Every transaction, every lie, every secret your father's been hiding. I'm looking at a copy of your real trust fund right now. And guess what? It's not empty. Your father's been hoarding cash for years while pretending you were broke. There's been a mistake. No mistakes. Just cold, hard evidence. I smiled into the phone. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to call your father, and you're going to tell him that if he so much as freezes a single account of mine, I'll release everything to the press. Everything. The embezzlement. The forged signatures. The offshore accounts. I'll make both of you famous. You're bluffing. Try me. Another long silence. I could hear him breathing, fast and shallow, the way he did when he was panicking. This isn't you, he finally said. This isn't the woman I proposed to. No, it's not. I felt the word settle into my bones. That woman died tonight. Right around the time you slapped me in front of 300 people. I hung up before he could respond. My phone rang again. Julian. Then again. And again. I silenced it and tucked it into my bag. The sun was starting to rise over the city skyline. The streets were quiet, still half asleep. For the first time in my life, I felt like I could breathe. I flagged down a taxi and gave the driver the address of a hotel I'd never stayed at before. A modest one, with no connections to anyone I knew. I needed a place to think. The tablet sat on the seat beside me. A pulse of power in its dark screen. Margaret had given me everything I needed to fight them. But she'd also shown me how deeply the Ashfords had poisoned my life. My mother. My friends. My entire existence had been built on their lies. And now it was time to burn it all down. I spent the morning in my hotel room, reading through the files. Offshore accounts. Shell companies. Photographs of Julian with Clara in places I'd never known about. Credit card receipts for luxury items I'd never seen. He'd been living a secret life for years, and I'd been too blinded by love and obligation to see it. But I wasn't blind anymore. At noon, I got a text from an unknown number. Your mother just left the Ashford Foundation building. She looked upset. Might be time to have a difficult conversation. I closed my eyes and thought about the woman who'd raised me. The woman who'd told me to smile and nod and keep my head down. The woman who'd sacrificed everything, including her self-respect, to keep the Ashfords favored. She was my mother. But she was also part of their machine. And if I was going to win this fight, I had to know which side she was really on. I called her. She answered on the first ring. Elena, thank God. I've been trying to reach you all night. What happened? Why did you leave? What did you say to Arthur? The whole family is furious. Mom, I need to ask you something. And I need you to tell me the truth. Of course, sweetheart. Anything. When did you start working for the Ashford Foundation? The silence stretched so long I thought the call had dropped. I'm sorry, my mother finally said. I'm sorry, Elena. I should have told you. I was going to, but then you fell in love with Julian, and everything happened so fast. You sold me out, I said quietly. You sold out your own daughter for a paycheck. That's not true. I just wanted to protect you. I thought if I stayed close to them, I could keep you safe. Safe from what? From their money, from their control. You gave them power over you, Mom. And that gave them power over me. I was trying to do what was best. You were trying to survive. I cut her off. I understand that. Really. I do. But I'm not going to survive this the same way you did. I'm going to fight. And I'm going to win. But I need to know if you're with me or against me. My mother started crying. Soft, hiccuping sobs that made my chest ache. I don't know how to be with you, she whispered. I've spent 10 years taking orders from those people. I don't know how to be anything else. Then learn. I gripped the phone tighter. Because the old world is ending. And I'm not going back to it. I hung up before she could answer. The tablet sat on the nightstand. Its screen dark and waiting. I turned it on and opened the file labeled Arthur's private accounts. There were dozens of them. Millions of dollars. Hidden in countries I'd never heard of. I smiled. Game on. The knock on my hotel room door came at 6:47 a.m. I'd been awake for hours staring at the ceiling, replaying every conversation from the night before. My mother's sobs. Julian's threats. Margaret's cold, precise instructions. The tablet sat on the nightstand like a loaded weapon. I didn't answer the door. I didn't move. I just listened to the knock repeat, more insistent this time, and waited for whoever it was to go away. Miss Campbell, I know you're in there. A woman's voice. Professional. Calm. Not someone I recognized. Your mother sent me. She said you might need help. She also said you might not trust me, so she told me to give you this. A folded piece of paper slid under the door. I watched it land on the carpet, my heart hammering against my ribs. That I waited until I heard footsteps retreating down the hall. Then I crossed the room and picked up the paper. That it was my mother's handwriting. Shaky, uneven, like she'd written it in a hurry. Elena, this is Sarah Chin. She works at the Times. She's one of the good ones. I should have told you about her years ago. I'm sorry. Please talk to her. Mom. I opened the door. The woman standing in the hallway was younger than I'd expected. Mid-30s with sharp eyes and a no-nonsense haircut. She wore jeans and a leather jacket. Nothing like the polished corporate armor I'd come to expect from the Ashford's world. She held up a press badge with her photo and the Times logo, Sarah Chun. I've been investigating Arthur Ashford for 4 years. Your mother gave me a call this morning. Said you might have something worth talking about. I didn't invite her in. I just stood in the doorway blocking her path. Why should I trust you? You shouldn't. Not yet. She reached into her jacket and pulled out a folder. But you should trust this. Take a look. I took the folder and opened it. Inside were copies of documents I'd seen before, the same ones Margaret had given me. But there was more. Photographs of Arthur meeting with a man I didn't recognize in a restaurant I'd never been to. Copies of wire transfers to accounts in the Cayman Islands. A handwritten letter, signed by Julian, confessing to drug use and financial mismanagement. Where did you get this? I asked. Your mother, actually. She's been feeding me information for years. She didn't want you to know because she was afraid of what would happen if the Ashfords found out. Sarah's eyes met mine, steady and unblinking. She's been playing a long game, Miss Campbell. She just didn't know how to tell you. I felt something crack inside my chest. My mother, who'd seemed so weak, so willing to sacrifice everything for the Ashfords' approval. She'd been gathering evidence the whole time. She's been protecting me. I whispered. She's been trying to. But she's also been scared. Arthur Ashford is a dangerous man. Not the kind who gets his hands dirty, but the kind who pays other people to do it for him. Your mother's been terrified that he'd find out about her. Sarah tucked her hands into her pockets. But when she heard what happened at the engagement party, she decided it was time to stop hiding. She told me everything. The forged documents. The offshore accounts. The way Arthur controls everyone around him with money and fear. Does Julian know? Julian knows his father is capable of anything. But he doesn't know the extent of it. He still thinks he's the golden child. That his father will forgive him eventually. He doesn't realize he's been written out of the will. He doesn't realize Arthur has already replaced him. Replaced him with who? Sarah smiled. But it wasn't a kind smile. With your best friend, Clara. Arthur's been grooming her for years. She's the one who's been feeding him information about Julian's drug use. She's the one who tipped him off about the embezzlement. She's been Arthur's spy in your relationship from the very beginning. The words hit me like a physical blow. Clara, who'd laughed at my jokes and held my hand through rough times. Clara, who'd been my maid of honor, my confidant, my sister in everything but blood. That she sold him out, I said. She sold out Julian to his own father. She sold out everyone. But especially you. Sarah stepped closer, her voice dropping. She's been working for Arthur for 3 years. He pays her a monthly retainer to keep tabs on Julian's personal life. That's why she was always around. That's why she was at the engagement party. She was there to report back. Not to be his mistress. Both, actually. Sarah shrugged. She's a multitasker. I sank onto the edge of the bed, the folder clutched in my hands. My world had been a series of betrayals, each one more devastating than the last. But this one cut deepest. Clara had been my friend. My real friend. Or so I'd thought. What do I do now? I asked. Sarah sat down in the armchair across from me, crossing her legs. You have 2 choices. You can take what you've got and run. Go somewhere the Ashfords can't reach you. Build a new life. Try to forget everything that happened. I know people who can help you disappear. And the second choice, you fight. She leaned forward, her eyes burning with intensity. You take everything I've got and everything Margaret gave you, and you release it all at once. The embezzlement, the forged will, the offshore accounts, Julian's drug use, Clara's betrayal. You burn their whole world to the ground, and you make sure everyone knows who did it. But they'll come after me. They'll try, but if you do it right, they won't be able to. You'll be too famous, too visible, too dangerous to touch. Arthur Ashford is only powerful as long as he's untouchable. The moment he's exposed, the moment the world sees what he really is, he'll crumple. She pulled out her phone and tapped the screen. I've already started drafting the story. It'll go live tonight at midnight, unless you tell me otherwise.
Esther daher.
Tonight. Your mother called me at 5 a.m., Miss Campbell. She told me you'd need options. And she told me you'd need to act fast, because Arthur is already moving to destroy you. He's got a PR team putting together a smear campaign as we speak. By tomorrow morning, every major news outlet will have a story about how you're an unstable, vengeful ex who tried to ruin the Ashford family out of spite. How do you know? Because I've seen the draft. She smiled grimly. His fixer sent it to my editor by accident. Didn't check the CC line. Happens more often than you'd think. I had to laugh. It was a brittle, desperate sound. He's so arrogant he can't even coordinate a smear campaign properly. He's been untouchable for 40 years. Arrogance comes with the territory. Sarah leaned back in her chair. But the window's open and a lot of people want to see him fall. Your mother. Margaret. Me. And now you. What about Julian? Sarah's expression shifted. Something complicated flickered behind her eyes. What about him? He's an idiot. He's a drunk. He hit me. But he's also his father's victim. His father forged a will to disinherit him. His father's been spying on him for years. His father's been setting him up to take the fall for the embezzlement. You want to protect him? I want to understand. I shook my head. He was never a good person. I know that now. But Arthur made him worse. Arthur destroyed whatever good was left in him. And then he blamed me for the disaster he created. Sarah studied me for a long moment. That's not vengeance, she finally said. That's mercy. And mercy doesn't win wars. Maybe not. But I've done enough damage tonight. I looked down at my hands, still trembling from the adrenaline. I don't want to be like them. I don't want to use people and discard them. I want to take them down, yes. But I want to do it clean. Sarah nodded slowly. Okay. We can work with that. But you need to understand something. Once this goes live, there's no coming back. You'll have enemies for the rest of your life. Arthur's friends, his business partners, his lawyers. They'll never stop coming for you. I know. And your mother. She'll be collateral damage. She works for Arthur's foundation. She's been documented. She's caught in the crossfire, no matter what we do. I know that too. I took a deep breath, feeling the weight of it settle on my shoulders. But she chose this. She chose to help me, knowing exactly what it would cost her. Sarah's phone buzzed. She glanced at the screen and her expression darkened. We have a problem. What is it? Arthur Ashford just called a press conference. He's going live in an hour. He's going to announce that Julian has been disinherited due to substance abuse and financial mismanagement. He's also going to reveal that he's leaving the entire estate to Clara. My blood ran cold. He's doing it now before we can release the evidence. He's trying to get ahead of the story. He wants to frame it as a bold, responsible decision. He'll paint himself as the loving father who had no choice but to cut off his troubled son. And Julian, Sarah shook her head. I don't know. He might not even know yet. Arthur probably hasn't told him. I grabbed my phone and called Julian. He answered on the first ring. Elena, his voice was raw, confused. What's happening? My father just called me and told me he was holding a press conference. He said I'm being disinherited. He said it's because of you. Julian, listen to me. You need to come to the hotel. Right now. I have evidence that your father has been lying to you for years. I have evidence that Clara's been working for him. I have everything. I don't believe you. You're lying. You're trying to turn me against my father. I'm not. I could hear the urgency in my own voice. I'm trying to save you from the biggest mistake of your life. He's going to leave everything to Clara. He's going to make you look like a fraud. And then he's going to destroy you. How do I know you're telling the truth? I thought about the tablet, the files, the evidence. Send me your address. I'll come to you. I'll show you everything. And if you still don't believe me, you can do whatever you want with the information. I won't stop you. A long pause. I could hear him breathing, fast and shallow. Okay, he finally said. I'll text you the address. But if this is a trick, Elena, if you're working with my father. I'm not. I promise. I ended the call and looked at Sarah. Her eyes were grimmed. You're making a mistake, she said. He's going to use whatever you give him to protect himself. He'll throw you under the bus the moment it's convenient. Maybe, I admitted. But I'm giving him a choice. That's more than anyone's ever given him before. Sarah sighed and stood up. Fine. Your play. But I'm going to be in the room when you show him the evidence. And if he tries anything, I'll have a recorder running. Fair enough. I grabbed the tablet and slipped it into my bag. Julian's text came through a moment later. An address in the wealthy part of town. A penthouse I'd never known he had. I stared at the message for a long moment. Then I took a deep breath and walked out the door. The penthouse was everything I expected and nothing I wanted. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city skyline. Marble floors that probably cost more than my mother's entire house. A bar stocked with bottles I couldn't even pronounce. Julian was sprawled on a leather couch in the middle of it all. His shirt untucked and his eyes red-rimmed. He looked up when I walked in. Sarah lingered by the door, her hand in her pocket, probably on the recorder. You came, Julian said. His voice was flat, drained of all the anger I'd heard on the phone. I didn't think you would. I told you I would. I crossed the room and sat down on the couch across from him. The leather creaked under my weight. You look terrible. Thanks. You look like you haven't slept in a week. I hadn't. But I didn't say that. Instead, I pulled the tablet out of my bag and placed it on the glass coffee table between us. I need you to look at something. He stared at it like it was a snake. What is it? Evidence. About your father. About Clara. About everything you thought you knew. I opened the file labeled Arthur's private accounts and turned the screen toward him. Julian leaned forward, squinting at the numbers. His face went pale, then red, then pale again. What the hell is this? His voice cracked. Where did you get this? From someone your father employed. Someone who's been watching him for years. It's all there, Julian. The embezzlement. The forged will. The offshore accounts. He's been hiding millions from you while pretending you were broke. But he said. Julian's hands were shaking. He grabbed the tablet, scrolling frantically through the documents. He said the trust was empty. He said I'd squandered everything. He said I was a failure. He lied. He's been lying to you your whole life. I watched his face crumple, and for a moment, I felt something like pity. He never intended for you to inherit anything. He was going to let you take the fall for the embezzlement while he moved the real money offshore. Clara. Julian's voice was barely a whisper. He told me Clara was the only one who understood me, the only one who cared about me. He encouraged me to spend more time with her. She was working for him. She's been spying on you for years. She's the one who told him about the drug use, about the money you were taking from the trust. Julian dropped the tablet like it had burned him. No, that's not possible. She's the only person who ever supported me. She's the only one who made me feel like I wasn't worthless. I remembered that feeling, the desperate need for validation, the way I'd clung to Julian's affection even when he treated me like dirt. I remembered the hollow emptiness that came with realizing it had all been a lie. I know what that feels like, I said quietly. I know what it's like to believe someone loves you, only to find out you were just a pawn in their game. Julian looked up at me. His eyes were wet. I'd never seen him cry before. Not when his mother died. Not when his grandfather passed away. He'd always been too proud, too guarded, too afraid of showing weakness. I hit you, he said. I slapped you in front of everyone. And you're still here, trying to help me. I'm not here to help you. I'm here to show you the truth. What you do with it is your choice. Help me. The words came out broken, desperate. Please. I don't know what to do. I don't have anyone else. Clara's gone. My father's a monster. I've burned every bridge I ever had. You're the only person who ever. He stopped, choking on the words that I didn't reach for him. I didn't offer comfort. But I didn't leave either. I can give you a copy of everything on this tablet, I said. You can take it to the press, to the police, to whoever you want. You can destroy your father the way he tried to destroy you. And then what? Then you start over. Clean. No lies. No manipulation. You figure out who you are without the Ashford name. Julian laughed, a bitter, broken sound. I don't know who that is. I've never been anyone else. I've been Julian Ashford my whole life. The golden sun. The disappointment. The cautionary tale. I know. I leaned back on the couch. I don't have the answer to that. But I know what it's like to walk away from everything you thought defined you. I did it last night. I walked out of that party, and I didn't look back. I didn't even say goodbye. His voice was distant, like he was talking to himself. I just took the money and ran. Wait. What money? Julian's eyes focused on me, sharp and suddenly cold. What? You said you took the money and ran. What money? He looked away, but I saw the guilt flicker across his face. It doesn't matter. It matters a lot. Tell me what you did. I took some cash. Before I left the estate. I didn't think anyone would notice. How much cash? Julian swallowed hard. I don't know. A few $100,000. Maybe more. It was in my father's study. I don't know why I took it. I was angry. I was scared. I thought if I could just get away, I could start over somewhere. I stared at him, my mind racing. Does your father know? He hasn't said anything. But he'll find out. He checks the safe every week. He'll notice it's gone. When did you take it? Right before I came here. I ran into the study while everyone was still watching you leave. I grabbed the money and I ran. You ran away with your own father's money. It's not his money. Julian's voice rose, suddenly defensive. It's family money. It's supposed to be mine anyway. He's been hiding everything from me, and you're saying I'm the bad guy for taking what I'm owed. I took a slow breath. It's not about who's the bad guy. It's about what happens when your father realizes the money is gone. Julian's face drained of color. He'll come after me. He'll have me arrested. Probably. And that's the best case scenario. He could do a lot worse. Sarah finally spoke up from the doorway. He's right. Arthur Ashford doesn't just sue people. He destroys them. If he finds out Julian took the money, he'll call the police and press charges. He'll use it to paint Julian as a thief, just like he's been painting him as a drug addict. Then what do I do? Julian looked at me, desperate again. I can't give it back. He'll never believe me. He'll think I was planning to steal it all along. Maybe you were. I met his eyes. I don't know what your intentions were. I only know what you did. You came here to help me. I don't understand. Why are you attacking me now? I'm not attacking you. I'm trying to figure out how we get out of this without both of us going to prison. The word prison hung in the air between us. Julian looked like he was going to be sick. You can't be serious, he said. You can't actually think I'd go to prison for taking money that was rightfully mine. I think you need to decide who you are, Julian. Are you a victim of your father's abuse? Or are you a thief who got caught? I kept my voice level calm. Because from where I'm sitting, those two things aren't mutually exclusive. He stared at me for a long moment. Then something shifted in his expression. The panic faded, replaced by a cold, calculating calm. You're using this, he said quietly. You're using this to control me. You came here with your evidence, your journalist friend, and your big speech about truth and redemption, and all you really want is for me to hand over the money. What? Don't play dumb. You don't care about me. You never did. You just want to get your hands on the money. I laughed. It came out harsher than I intended. You think I want your father's stolen cash? You think I came here to manipulate you? I don't know why you came here. All I know is that you've been planning this since the engagement party. You walked out on me in front of everyone. You made a spectacle of yourself. And then you conveniently showed up with evidence that your ex-best friend was a spy and my father was a liar. Because I did the research, Julian. Because I spent the night putting together the pieces of my own destroyed life. You're still playing me. He stood up, his hands balled into fists. You're still playing the victim, when we both know you've been planning this for weeks, maybe months. Fine. I stood up too, pulling my bag over my shoulder. If you don't believe me, if you think this is all some elaborate scheme to get your money, then I'll leave. I'll take the evidence with me. I'll give it to Sarah, and she'll publish it. And you'll deal with the fallout on your own. Don't threaten me. Julian stepped closer, his chest nearly touching mine. I'm not afraid of you. You should be. I didn't back down. I'm the only person who knows the truth about your father. I'm the only person who has the evidence to take him down. Without me, you're just a disgraced son with a drug problem and a stolen suitcase of cash. Something flickered in Julian's eyes. Fear. Uncertainty. The mask of confidence cracking. What do you want? He finally said. Name your price. I don't want money, Julian. I want the truth. I want to publish the evidence and walk away clean. I want to build a life that has nothing to do with you or your family. Then why are you helping me? Because I don't want to be like your father. I let the words settle between us. I don't want to use people and discard them. I don't want to manipulate and deceive. I want to do something good with what I've been given, even if that means helping you. Julian stared at me for what felt like an eternity. Then he dropped his gaze and sank back onto the couch. I don't know how to be good, he said. I don't know how to be anything other than what my father made me. Neither did I. I sat back down, keeping distance between us. But I'm learning. And you can too. The first step is telling me everything. Every secret. Every lie. Every person your father has used to control you. Julian took a shaky breath. It's a long list. I have time. He started talking. He told me about the affairs his father had paid to keep quiet. The business partners he'd ruined. The women he'd hired to entrap political rivals. The illegal campaign contributions he'd funneled through shell companies. The bribes. The threats. The bodies buried in legal and financial graveyards. He told me about Clara. How she'd been given a job as his personal assistant straight out of college. How his father had encouraged her to get close to him. How she'd reported back to Arthur about every indiscretion, every mistake, every vulnerability. She was supposed to be my wife, Julian said, his voice hollow. That's what my father told me. He told me Clara was perfect for me. He told me I should marry her. And I believed him. You were in love with her. I was in love with the idea of her. The idea of someone who accepted me, who didn't judge me for my mistakes. But I didn't know she was reporting back to my father. I didn't know she was gathering evidence against me. And what about me? Julian met my eyes. You were the safe choice. The girl my father approved of. The one who wouldn't cause trouble. But then you walked out, and everything fell apart. I nodded slowly. So Clara was the plan all along. You were supposed to marry her. She was supposed to keep you under control. I think so. But I don't know for sure. I stopped knowing anything a long time ago. Sarah stepped forward, her phone out. I've been recording the whole conversation. With your permission, I'd like to use some of this in the article. Julian flinched. What? No. You can't publish that. My father will destroy me. Your father already plans to destroy you. Sarah's voice was calm, practical. This is our only chance to get ahead of him. We publish first and we control the narrative. I can't. Julian's voice cracked. I can't do that to my father. He's still my father. No matter what he's done. Are you serious? I stared at him. After everything he's done to you, you still want to protect him? I don't want to protect him. I just... Julian ran a hand through his hair, looking lost. I don't know what I want. I'm not the person you think I am, Elena. I'm not a victim. I'm not a hero. I'm just someone who got caught in a game I didn't understand. Then learn to understand it. I held his gaze. Learn to fight back. Or you'll spend the rest of your life running from something you could have faced head-on. You're talking about destroying my family. I'm talking about saving yourself. Silence stretched between us. Julian's phone buzzed on the coffee table. He glanced at it, and his face went white. "It's my father," he said. "He's calling. He probably knows the money is gone. Then it's decision time." I stood up, grabbing my bag. "You can answer the call. You can tell him everything and crawl back to the life he made for you. Or you can come with us and take control of your own future. He'll never forgive me. His forgiveness doesn't matter. Your survival matters." Julian stared at his phone, the screen glowing with his father's name. The buzzing filled the room, relentless, demanding "Turn it off," I said. "Turn it off and come with us." He hesitated. Then slowly he reached for the phone and silenced it. "I don't know where else to go," he admitted. "Then start here." I gestured to the tablet. "Start by facing the truth. The rest will come." Sarah pocketed her phone. "We need to move. Arthur's press conference is in an hour. If we can get the story published before he goes live, we'll have the upper hand." "What about the money?" Julian asked. "The cash I took. What do I do with it?" "Keep it for now. But document everything. Where it came from, when you took it, how you accessed it. We'll need that for the article." Julian nodded slowly. For the first time since I'd arrived, he looked like he was actually listening. Actually processing. "Let's go." I said that we moved fast. Sarah called her editor on the way down, giving instructions for an emergency article. Julian followed us, still pale but determined. As we reached the lobby, a woman stepped out of the elevator. "Clara." Her eyes met mine, and for a moment, we just stared at each other. "Elena," she said. "I didn't expect to see you here." "Clara." I kept my voice flat. "I didn't expect to see you either. I thought you'd be at the press conference." Clara smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "I have other business to attend to. Julian, we need to talk." "Don't." Julian stepped back, away from her. "I know everything. About you. About my father. About all of it." Clara's smile faltered. "You don't know anything. He's lying to you. She's lying to you." "She showed me the evidence," Julian said. "You were working for my father. You were spying on me." Clara's composure cracked. For a moment, I saw fear in her eyes. "It's not like that. I was trying to protect you." "You were trying to protect yourself." I didn't wait to hear more. I walked past Clara and out the glass doors, into the waiting car. Julian followed. Sarah was already on the phone, coordinating the article. "Change of plans," she said, hanging up. "My editor wants to go live immediately. We don't wait for the press conference. We publish now." Here I looked around the car. We're in a moving vehicle. Perfect. Untraceable. Unstoppable. She opened her laptop and started typing. "I have all the key details already. I just need to add the latest piece about Clara." Julian stared out the window, silent. His hands were shaking. "Are you okay?" I asked. "I don't know. I don't know anything anymore." His voice was distant. "But maybe that's a start. We get through the next few hours. Then we figure out the rest." Sarah hit send on the article. "It's up. The website went live 30 seconds ago. Now we wait." My phone buzzed. "My mother." I answered. "Mom, it's done. I've seen the article. Elena, I'm so proud of you." Her voice was thick with emotion. "You read it already?" "I've been waiting. I knew it was coming. I've been waiting for years." The car slowed to a stop at a red light. I looked out the window at the city, and for the first time in my life, it didn't look like a trap. We weren't running anymore. We were fighting back. And nothing would ever be the same. The article went live at exactly 11:47 a.m. I know because I watched the timestamp change on Sarah's laptop screen. My heart hammering so hard I could hear it in my ears. She'd titled it The Ashford Empire, a family built on lies, and it was everything we'd hoped for and more. Every document, every transfer, every betrayal laid bare in stark black and white. My phone started buzzing within seconds. First my mother, then a flood of unknown numbers. I silenced it and tucked it into my bag. Julian was staring out the window, his reflection ghostly against the city skyline. "What happens now?" he asked, his voice hollow. "Now we wait," Sarah said. "The story needs time to spread. But trust me, it's spreading. I'm already getting notifications from 3 different news outlets asking for comment. Comment on what? Julian turned to face her, his expression caught between fear and confusion. We just published evidence of fraud and embezzlement. We didn't give them a narrative. Sometimes the facts are enough. Sarah closed her laptop. The public will fill in the rest. They're already doing it. Look. She turned her phone toward us. Social media was exploding. Hashtags I'd never seen before were trending. Hashtag Ashford exposed, hashtag justice for Elena, hashtag the real Arthur. Thousands of comments, thousands of shares. The machine was already in motion. Julian stared at the screen, his face unreadable. My father is going to kill me. He's going to try, I said. But he can't. You're protected now. The story is out. If anything happens to you, everyone will know exactly who's responsible. Protected, Julian repeated, like he was tasting the word for the first time. I've never been protected before. Get used to it. I turned to Sarah. What's our next move? We find somewhere safe to lay low for a few hours. Let the story gain traction. Then we go on the offensive. The offensive? We release the rest of the evidence. The documents Margaret gave you. The photographs. The testimonies. We hit them with everything we have, and we don't stop until Arthur Ashford is in handcuffs. The driver pulled up to a nondescript building on the outskirts of the city. Sarah had arranged it in advance. A safe house owned by a friend of a friend. It was small, cramped, and utterly anonymous. Perfect. We filed inside, Julian still dazed, Sarah already on her phone coordinating with her editor. I collapsed onto a worn-out couch and let myself breathe for the first time in hours. Elena. Julian sat down beside me, close enough that I could feel the heat radiating off him. I need to tell you something. Okay. It wasn't just the money. He wouldn't meet my eyes. There was something else. Something I've never told anyone. Julian, if this is about the drug use, we already know. It's not about the drugs. He took a shaky breath. It's about Clara. She wasn't just spying on me. She was a witness. To what? To a conversation. One my father had. About you. I felt the temperature in the room drop. What conversation? Julian finally looked at me, and his eyes were full of something I'd never seen before. Guilt. Real raw guilt. The night of the engagement party before you arrived, my father pulled me aside. He told me that if I couldn't control you, he would. He said he had plans for you, Elena. Plans that didn't include marriage. What kind of plans? I don't know. He didn't specify. He just said that if I couldn't keep you in line, he would find another way to make sure you stayed quiet. My blood turned to ice. He was going to hurt me. I don't know. Maybe. Probably. Julian's voice cracked. He's done it before. To other people. Women who threaten to expose him. He doesn't get his hands dirty, but he has people who do. And you didn't tell me this before we published. I didn't think it would matter. I thought if I just went along with everything, if I just played my part, he would leave you alone. I thought I could protect you by keeping you in the dark. You thought you could protect me by making me your wife. Yes. The word came out broken. I thought if you were part of the family, he wouldn't touch you. I thought I could keep you safe. I stood up so fast I nearly knocked over the coffee table. You manipulated me. You lied to me. You let me believe I was making a choice when I was just following a script you'd written. I was trying to protect you. You were trying to protect yourself. You were afraid of him, so you used me as a shield. Silence stretched between us, heavy and suffocating. Sarah had stopped typing. The whole room was frozen, waiting for what came next. I'm sorry, Julian finally said. I know it doesn't matter. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness. But I'm sorry. I wanted to scream. I wanted to throw something. I wanted to walk out the door and never look back. Instead, I sat back down. I'm not forgiving you, I said. Not yet. Maybe not ever. But I'm not walking away either. We're in this together now, whether I like it or not. And if your father really has people who hurt women who threaten him, then we need to deal with that. What do you mean deal with it? I looked at Sarah. How do we prove that Arthur Ashford is a threat to women? How do we expose the pattern? Sarah's eyes lit up. We find the women he's already hurt. We get them to talk. If we can put together enough evidence, we can build a case that goes beyond financial fraud. We can make it personal. But it's one thing to say he hurt someone, I said. It's another to prove it. We start with the ones who are still alive. We find them, we interview them, we get their stories on the record. And we do it fast, before Arthur can silence them. Julian spoke up. I know someone. A woman named Beth. She worked for my father about 5 years ago. She was his assistant. She quit suddenly, and I never saw her again. But I heard rumors about what he did to her. Can you find her? I can try. Julian pulled out his phone. I have her number somewhere. It's old, but it might still work. He spent the next 10 minutes scrolling through his contacts, his expression growing more desperate with each passing second. Then he stopped. I found it. Beth Morrison. But the number might be disconnected. Call it, Sarah said. Use my phone. It's untraceable. Julian dialed. The line rang once, twice, 3 times. I held my breath. Hello, a woman's voice. Hesitant. Worried. Beth, it's Julian Ashford. I know it's been a long time. I need to talk to you. About my father. Silence. Then a sharp intake of breath. Julian. I heard what happened. I saw the article. Is it true? Is he really being exposed? Yes. But I need your help. I need to know what he did to you. Another long silence. I could hear Beth breathing, fast and shallow. I can't talk about this on the phone, she finally said. Meet me at the Old Town Diner. 2 hours. Come alone. She hung up before Julian could respond. She agreed to meet, Julian said, staring at the phone. I don't know if she'll actually show up, but she agreed. Then we go, I said. I'm coming with you. Elena, she said alone. She doesn't know me. I'll wait outside. I just need to be close. Julian looked at me, and for the first time I saw something like gratitude in his eyes. Okay. Thank you. The Old Town Diner was the kind of place Arthur Ashford would never be caught dead in. Faded neon sign, cracked vinyl booths, the smell of stale coffee and fryer grease. It was perfect. Julian went inside alone. I waited in the car, watching through the window as a woman in her late 30s slid into the booth across from him. She was nervous, her hands wrapped around a coffee cup like it was the only thing keeping her grounded. I couldn't hear what they were saying. I could only watch their body language. The way Beth leaned forward, her voice low and urgent. The way Julian nodded, his expression grim. The way he reached across the table and covered her hand with his. After 20 minutes they both stood up. Beth hugged Julian quick and fierce. Then she walked out the back door and disappeared into the alley. Julian returned to the car. His face pale. She told me everything, he said. Everything my father did to her. The threats. The intimidation. The way he made her believe she had no way out. What did he do to her? He didn't touch her. Not physically. But he made it clear that if she ever talked, he would destroy her career, her reputation, her family. He made her sign a non-disclosure agreement that would have bankrupted her if she broke it. She's been living in fear for 5 years. Did she agree to talk? Julian nodded slowly. She said she would testify if the case is solid enough. But she's scared. She's terrified of what he'll do to her. She's not the only one. I started the car. But she's the first. We'll find more. We'll build a case so strong that even Arthur Ashford can't fight it. We returned to the safe house and Sarah set to work. She pulled up old records, contacted lawyers, made phone calls to potential witnesses. By nightfall she'd found 3 more women. Former employees. Former business associates. Women who'd been threatened into silence by Arthur Ashford. He's been doing this for years, Sarah said, her voice odd. Dozens of women. Maybe more. And no one ever stopped him. Until now. I looked at the list she'd compiled. We need to reach out to all of them. We need to get them on the record. I'll make the calls. But we need to move fast. Arthur's lawyers are already working on a counter-narrative. They're going to try to spin this as a conspiracy. How long do we have? Not long. Maybe a day. Maybe less. Julian spoke up from across the room. I can help. I can make calls. I can reach out to people who don't trust journalists. Sarah looked at him skeptically. You think anyone will talk to you? You're an Ashford. I'm the disinherited son. The one who got screwed over. People might see me as a victim, not an enemy. Then let's test that theory. Sarah handed him a list of names. Call them. Tell them who you are. Tell them you're helping to expose your father. See if they're willing to talk. Julian took the list and disappeared into the other room. I sat down across from Sarah. What happens if we can't find enough evidence? We find enough, she said firmly. We have to. Because if we don't, Arthur Ashford wins. And people like Beth, people like you, keep living in fear. I don't want to live in fear anymore. Then let's make sure you don't have to. My phone buzzed. My mother. Elena, I just heard. Arthur Ashford is going on the news tonight. He's doing an interview. He's going to try to control the narrative. We know. We're already preparing a response. Be careful, sweetheart. He's dangerous. He'll do anything to protect himself. I know, Mom. I'm being careful. Promise me you'll stay safe. I promise. I ended the call and looked at Sarah. Arthur's giving an interview tonight. We need to be ready. Already ahead of you. Sarah tapped her phone. I've got a reporter friend who's going to ask him the tough questions. We'll have the footage within minutes. Then we stay up. We wait. And we counter his narrative with everything we've got. The hours crawled by. Julian made his calls, his voice growing steadier with each conversation. Sarah coordinated with her contacts. I paced the small apartment, my mind racing. At 10 p.m., the interview aired. Arthur Ashford was polished, composed, the picture of wounded dignity. He spoke about unfortunate misunderstandings and personal vendettas, and the lies of a bitter ex-fiancé. He painted himself as the victim, the loving father who'd been betrayed by everyone he'd ever trusted. Clara, he said, his voice heavy with false emotion, has been like a daughter to me. I trust her completely. Any suggestion that she was involved in some scheme is absurd. Clara was seated beside him, nodding along, her expression one of perfect sympathy. I wanted to throw something at the screen. Turn it off, I said. I can't watch this. Sarah muted the TV. It's okay. He's making a mistake. What do you mean? He's digging himself a hole. Everyone who knows the truth is watching this right now. Beth. The other women. They're seeing him lie about everything, and they're getting angrier. Stronger. The interview isn't hurting us. It's helping. Then what do? We wait. We gather our evidence. And then we publish the rebuttal. At midnight, Julian emerged from the other room. His face was pale, but his eyes were bright. I found her, he said. I found Beth's sister. She's willing to talk. She said Arthur threatened her family too. She said she has documents. Emails. Recordings. Beth recorded some of her conversations with my father. She was planning to use them as leverage, but she never had the courage. She said she'd been waiting for someone to come forward. She's ready to release everything. Get her on the phone. Sarah grabbed her laptop. I need to hear this. Julian made the call. A woman's voice came through the speaker, trembling but determined. My sister was too scared to speak, she said. But I'm not. I'll tell you everything. Every threat. Every demand. Every way he made her life miserable. And she did. For 30 minutes, she recounted a nightmare of intimidation, manipulation, and abuse. Arthur had used his wealth and power to control Beth, to make her feel small, to make her believe she had no way out. By the time she finished, the room was silent. We have enough, Sarah said. We have more than enough. This is going to be the biggest story of the year. Julian looked at me, his eyes full of something I couldn't quite name. We're really doing this, aren't we? We're taking him down. We're giving the truth a voice, I said. That's all we've ever been doing. The sun was rising over the city when we finished drafting the rebuttal. Sarah sent it to her editor with a single message. Publish. Now. And then we waited. My phone didn't stop buzzing for hours. Messages from strangers. Messages from friends I hadn't spoken to in years. Messages from my mother, who was crying and laughing and crying again. Arthur Ashford's lawyers released a statement. It was defensive, desperate, full of threats and denials, but the public didn't believe them anymore. The machine had turned. The narrative had shifted. And Arthur Ashford, for the first time in his life, was on the defensive. The FBI is opening an investigation, Sarah announced, reading from her phone. They're looking into the financial fraud and the allegations of witness intimidation. Arthur is going to be under federal scrutiny for months. Months? That's all. It's a start. And it's more than he's ever faced before. The investigations will lead to more investigations. He's not going to get out of this clean. Julian let out a breath I didn't realize he'd been holding. It's really over. It's not over, I said. It's just the beginning. But it's a good beginning. I looked out the window at the city, at the sun rising over the skyline, and for the first time in years, I felt hope that the FBI arrived at the safe house at 7:13 a.m. I know the exact time because I was staring at the clock, willing the seconds to move faster when the knock came. 3 sharp raps followed by a voice that cut through the morning silence like a blade. Ms. Campbell, Special Agent Reyes, Federal Bureau of Investigation. We need to speak with you. Julian bolted upright from the couch where he'd been dozing. Sarah's hand went to her phone, her reporter instincts kicking in. I crossed the room and opened the door. The man standing in the hallway was younger than I'd expected. Maybe early 40s, with tired eyes and a suit that had seen better days. He held up his badge, but I barely glanced at it. I'd been expecting this visit since the article went live. I just hadn't known when it would come. Come in, I said, stepping aside. We've been waiting for you. Agent Reyes stepped into the apartment, followed by a woman in a matching suit. He surveyed the room with the practiced efficiency of someone who'd done this 1,000 times before. His eyes lingered on Julian, then on Sarah, then back to me. I've read the article, he said. All of it. Including the supplemental materials you released this morning. You've made quite a case against Arthur Ashford. I didn't make it. I just uncovered it. Modest. He pulled out a small recorder and placed it on the coffee table. I'm going to record this conversation. You have the right to have an attorney present. You have the right to remain silent. Do you understand your rights? I understand them. But I'm not the one you should be questioning. Then who should I be questioning? I looked at Julian. He was pale, shaking, but he nodded. Me, he said, his voice barely above a whisper. I'm the one who knows everything. My father's crimes. His methods. His network. I'll tell you everything I know. Agent Reyes studied him for a long moment. You're willing to testify against your own father. I'm willing to tell the truth. Julian's voice grew stronger with each word. He's done terrible things. To me. To Clara. To women I never even knew about. I've been complicit in his crimes for years, and I'm done pretending I'm innocent. Julian, I said, stepping forward. You don't have to do this alone. I'll be there. Sarah will be there. We'll all be there. He met my eyes, and for the first time, I saw something like peace in his expression. I know. That's why I can do this. The interview that followed was brutal. Agent Reyes didn't pull punches. He asked about the embezzlement, the forged documents, the offshore accounts, the women Arthur had threatened, the bribes, the lies, the whole sordid history of the Ashford family. Julian answered every question. He didn't deflect. He didn't minimize. He laid everything bare, his voice steady and his hands still. At the end of the interview, Agent Reyes turned off the recorder. We're going to need you to come in for a formal deposition. There are questions the federal prosecutor will want to ask. I'll be there, Julian said. I'll tell them everything. Miss Campbell. Agent Reyes turned to me. You'll need to testify as well. Your evidence is crucial to building the case against Arthur Ashford. I'll testify. But I have conditions. Conditions? I want witness protection for the women who came forward. Beth Morrison and the others. They're terrified of Arthur Ashford, and they have every right to be. If we're going to bring him down, we need to make sure he can't hurt them anymore. Agent Reyes nodded slowly. I can make that happen. It'll take some time, but I can make it happen. Then I'll testify. Agent Reyes and his partner left an hour later, taking Julian with them for the formal deposition. Sarah went back to her laptop, already composing the next article. I sat alone in the empty apartment, staring at the door they'd walked through. My phone buzzed. My mother Elena, it's all over the news. They're saying Arthur Ashford has been arrested. Is it true? I don't know, Mom. I haven't heard anything official yet. Turn on the TV. Right now. I grabbed the remote and switched on the screen. Breaking news. A helicopter shot of the Ashford estate. Police cars clustered around the entrance. Arthur Ashford being led out in handcuffs. His face a mask of cold fury. Clara behind him, crying, her perfect makeup ruined by tears. Arthur Ashford, billionaire philanthropist and patriarch of the Ashford family, was arrested earlier this morning on charges of fraud, embezzlement and witness intimidation. The charges stem from an investigation launched after a series of explosive articles exposed decades of criminal activity. We'll have more details as they become available. I watched the footage on loop, my heart pounding. Arthur Ashford, the man who'd controlled my life for years, was finally being held accountable. The sight of him in handcuffs should have filled me with triumph. Instead, I just felt tired. Sarah appeared at my side. You okay? I don't know. I thought I'd feel different. More relieved maybe. But I just feel empty. That's normal. You've been running on adrenaline for days. Now that the crisis is over, your body doesn't know what to do with itself. Maybe. I turned off the TV. What happens now? Now we wait. The legal process is going to take months, maybe years. But Arthur Ashford isn't going anywhere. He's going to rot in federal prison for a very long time. And Sarah's expression darkened. She's being investigated too. Conspiracy. Obstruction of justice. She was complicit in a lot of his crimes. She's not walking away from this clean. I nodded slowly. What about Julian? He's still in the deposition. They're going to keep him for a while. He has a lot of information to share. Will he be charged with anything? Sarah shook her head. He's been granted immunity in exchange for his testimony. He's going to get off with probation, maybe some community service. But he's not going to prison. I didn't know how I felt about that. Julian had been complicit in his father's crimes. He'd done terrible things. But he'd also been a victim, manipulated and controlled by a man who saw him as nothing more than a tool. He's going to need help, I said. Therapy. Counseling. He's been through a lot. That's not your problem anymore. I know. I looked out the window at the city skyline. But I can't just walk away. Not after everything we've been through. Sarah studied me for a long moment. You're still in love with him, aren't you? What? No. Absolutely not. Then why do you care what happens to him? I opened my mouth to respond, but no words came. She was right. I didn't love Julian. I didn't even like him most of the time. But I couldn't just abandon him. Not when he was finally trying to be better. I don't know, I admitted. Maybe I just want to see him succeed. Prove that he's not his father's son. That's noble. And maybe a little naive. Sarah squeezed my shoulder. But I get it. I've been covering stories like this for years, and I've seen a lot of people walk away from people they should have helped. It's nice to see someone actually care. It's not about caring. It's about, I don't know, making sure the cycle ends. Arthur Ashford destroyed everyone around him. I can't let Julian become the same thing. He's not. He's got a long way to go, but he's not his father. I hope not, I thought. But I didn't say it out loud. Julian came back to the apartment at 7 p.m. Looking exhausted but somehow lighter. He collapsed onto the couch and stared at the ceiling. They're going to prosecute him, he said. The FBI has enough evidence to put him away for decades. Maybe the rest of his life. That's good news. I sat down across from him. How do you feel? I don't know. Relieved maybe. Guilty. Angry. All of it. He turned his head to look at me. I'm sorry, Elena. For everything. For all of it. You've apologized a lot in the past few days. Because I mean it. I know I can't undo what I did, but I want you to know that I'm going to try to be better. I'm going to get help. I'm going to figure out who I am without my father controlling everything. Good. That's a good start. Can I ask you something? Ask. Will you stay? Not with me, not like that, but will you be in my life even a little bit? I thought about it. Really thought about it. The old me would have said yes without hesitation. desperate for any validation he could offer. But the new me was different. The new me knew what she deserved. I don't know, I said honestly. I need time to figure out what I want. My life has been consumed by the Ashford family for so long that I don't know who I am without them. Take all the time you need. I'll wait. Don't wait for me, Julian. I'm not a prize you can earn. If I come back, it'll be because I want to, not because you waited for me. He nodded slowly. I understand. I'll try to be worthy of you anyway. I didn't respond. I didn't know what to say. The next few weeks were a blur. I testified in front of a federal grand jury, my voice steady as I recounted every detail. I gave interviews to Sarah's colleagues, explaining how I'd uncovered the Ashford family's crimes. I watched as Arthur Ashford was formally charged with a litany of offenses, each one more damning than the last. Clara was arrested a week later. She tried to flee the country, but the FBI caught her at the airport. She looked broken in her mugshot, her carefully constructed facade finally crumbling. My mother called me every day. She'd lost her job at the Ashford Foundation, but she didn't seem to care. She was just relieved it was over. Your father would have been so proud of you, she said one night. He always knew you were strong. I just didn't see it. I didn't see it either, Mom. Not until I had to. I'm sorry for everything. For not believing you. For pushing you toward Julian. For all of it. I know, Mom. I forgive you. I don't deserve your forgiveness. Maybe not. But you're getting it anyway. That's what families do. She cried after that. I cried too. It was the first time in years we'd been honest with each other. A month after Arthur Ashford's arrest, I moved into my own apartment. Small, modest mine. I didn't have much money, but I had enough. Sarah had helped me negotiate a deal with a publisher, and I was writing a book about everything that had happened. I didn't know if it would be published, but it didn't matter. I was telling my story on my own terms. Julian came to visit me sometimes. He was in therapy, he told me, working on his issues, trying to understand why he'd done the things he'd done. He'd even started volunteering at a local shelter, trying to make up for some of the harm his family had caused. You're doing good work, I told him one afternoon. I'm proud of you. Coming from you, that means a lot. He smiled, and it wasn't the cocky grin I remembered. It was quieter, more genuine. I know I don't deserve your praise, but I'll take it. You deserve it. You've earned it. He looked at me with those blue eyes, the ones that used to make me weak in the knees. But now they just looked like eyes. Human eyes in a human face, belonging to a man who was trying to be better. Thank you, he said. For everything. I didn't do it for you. I did it for me. I know. That's what makes it meaningful. We talked for a while longer, and then he left. I watched him walk down the street, hands in his pockets, head held high. He wasn't the same person I'd almost married. He was someone new. Someone who might actually make something of himself. I hoped he would. I really did. But I also knew that I wasn't going to spend my life hoping for him. I was going to spend my life building something for myself. The book came out a year later. It was a modest success, more than I'd ever expected. People wrote to me, strangers from all over the world, telling me that my story had inspired them, that they'd found the courage to leave their own abusive situations, that they'd stopped being victims and started being survivors. I read every single letter. I wept over every single one. I was in a bookshop in Brooklyn, signing copies, when I saw a familiar face in the crowd. Clara. She'd been released on probation, her reputation in ruins. She looked thinner, older, her eyes shadowed with shame. As she approached my table, and I tensed. But she didn't attack. She just stood there, trembling. I don't expect you to forgive me, she said. I don't expect anything from you. But I wanted to say that I'm sorry. For everything I did. I was a coward. I was weak. And I hurt you more than I can ever say. I looked at her for a long moment. The woman who'd betrayed me, who'd spied on me, who'd tried to destroy my life. I thought about all the anger I'd felt, all the rage I'd carried. And I realized I didn't have room for it anymore. I forgive you, I said as she stared at me, tears streaming down her face. Why after everything I did? Because holding on to anger is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. I smiled, a gentle smile that surprised even me. I've spent enough of my life being angry. I'm not going to spend any more. I didn't embrace her. I didn't offer comfort. But I gave her something better, peace. The kind of peace that comes from letting go. I signed her book with a message that simply said, "The past is the past. Make something better of the future." She left the shop a few minutes later, her head held higher than it had been when she arrived. I watched her go and realized that I'd broken another cycle. Not just the cycle of abuse but the cycle of hatred. The Ashford family had been built on resentment and fear. I was going to build my life on something else. The sun was setting over Manhattan as I walked home that evening. The sky was orange and gold, beautiful in a way that made me stop and stare. I'd come so far from that night at the engagement party, when I'd walked out into the cold and dark. I'd built a life, a real life, on my terms. And I knew, deep in my bones, that I was finally, truly free. I went home to my small apartment, made myself a cup of tea, and sat by the window watching the stars come out. Tomorrow I would wake up and start again. The day after that, I would start again too. And the day after that. But every day would be mine. Every day would be a choice. And I wouldn't waste a single one of them. The chapter on Arthur Ashford's trial was written. The chapter on Julian's redemption was still being drafted. But my chapter, my story, was just beginning. And it was going to be beautiful.